Ayin Vav Amud Bet. So we had learned, we had spent a good chunk of time detailing about a number of the dapim that dealt with the avos malachos, each one after the other, most of them one after the other, and then after that the Gemara has a whole discussion about how much do you have to carry out, how much is considered carrying. It really reverts to a basic fundamental concept of carrying, and it's anything that is utilitarian in nature, which will depend, those of us who were here last week, will depend on what is needed for the type of animal, the type of fodder that you're carrying for the type of animal. So that would, anything less than that would not be considered chayv min Torah. You are carrying, right? But it's not carrying anything that's going to be of any use. Now, when it comes to carrying for human beings for food, so the size is going to be a grogros, which is a dried fig, I think, fig or date. I always get confused. Someone tell me what is fig? Dried fig, right? Grogros is a dried fig, and this is the Mishnah we're going to learn, which is really going to be the last 12 or so lines of the Amud of the Perek, and then we're going to go back to the beginning of the Perek, which we hadn't done. So the Mishnah says on Ayin Vav Amud Bet, Hamotzi Ochlim Kegrogros Chayev. A person carries out food. This means food for human beings. Lamachal Adam, says Rashi. So what's the minimal amount? Grogros, a dried fig. Umitztar from Zeh, and all different kinds of foods can be combined together. If I have half a grogeris of wheat and half a grogeris of something else, apples, they can all be combined together because they're all equal in the shear. There's no difference between food that may be more compacted or food that may be heavier or has a greater volumetric measure. They're all going to be considered the chayev for a grogeris, which, by the way, is a I guess that wasn't a correct statement because grogeris is a volumetric measure, right? But having said that, there's some things that are more compact and will be smaller for the same volume.
It's very big. Right.
Okay. How do we know it's volume, not weight? I don't need to ask.
These are volumetric figures. Okay.
If you know, okay. Fine.
Yeah. So it's not very big, but I'm saying, but it's actually, I believe it's bigger than a kazai, if I'm not mistaken. So at any rate, you're chayiv for each of these types of foods in this amount because that's the smallest amount a person, which is going to the smallest amount for a person. Now the only thing is, the Gemara, the Mishnah says, except for their shells, because you don't eat shells, v'garinehem, and their seeds, v'yuktsehem are their...
I think it doesn't have a shell, does it?
No, all foods, correct, all foods, right? So the fig, by the way, does have seeds that are edible,
seeds,
right? But there are some things that have non-edible seeds, right? And uktsehem is the... what's it called? The stem, right? The subin umursan. Subin is different types of bran. There's a better type of this coarse bran, which is called subin, which is when you winnow the grain, and you now have the shells that are still mixed in. You take out the shells, which is the chaff, right? And the mursanon is even after you've done that, you then sift the grain at the very end, and you pull out the final amount of bran from it, right? Small piece of bran. So those things are not included because they're not really edible. So the only thing that we're talking about that's included in the size of a grogeris is the edible foods. Right? Now, Rabbi Yehuda says, this is an interesting formulation because it's an exception to an exception. Rabbi Yehuda, chutz miklipi adashim. When you said chutz mikliposayim, to exclude kliposayim, there's an exclusion to include the shells of adashim, which are lentils. Why? Because they're cooked together with that shell. Lentils, right? When you cook lentils, you eat the shell together with them. They're cooked part of it. The skin. Yeah. That's the shell. Right? Okay. So therefore, I'm just pointing out it's a double negative. The first chutz is to exclude it, and this is to exclude the exclusion, which is really to include it. Okay. So it's a very simple mission, and the Gemara doesn't really spend a lot of time here. So the Gemara says, "V'subin and mursan lo." You mean to say that you cannot include, or you don't include the different types of bran. V'yatznan, but we have a Mishnah Masechet Chala that talks about how much dough you need to make for bichai, for the mitzvah of giving challah with a bracha. Chamesh devoim kemach, the od. You have 5/5 5/4 of a log of kemach, and a little bit more than that, you chayv in mitzvah challah, v'subin umorsanon, and together with the subin, including the different types of bran that are included. So you see that these are considered edible. So why, therefore, would it not be concluded in the amount of volume that you'd be carrying out? So, for example, in Shabbos, if I were to carry out a grogeris worth of grain, of flour, I would not include the murson and the subin. So if I had that included, I would be able to carry out a little more. Right, the shear would be a little bigger, but here it looks like it is included. So Rabbi says, "Shekain ani ocha pito beisa blusa." That you really, the truth is you don't really include them, but because when we're dealing with challah, the mitzvah includes challah that is eaten by different parts of society. So poor people tended to put in the bran, or leave the bran in to actually spread it out. We use bran because we feel it's healthy. It puts in bulk, right? But the reality was, you see that back in the day, they tried to get it out, except for the Adporaniyim, who kind of left it in because they didn't have a whole lot to stretch around anyway. So therefore, for making dough, it's considered dough. On the other hand, for carrying out, it's not really considered edible. The reason the poor people left it in there is they wanted to stretch it, so they're really putting in what is really considered less than desirable, less edible foods. Okay. So the last piece of Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda chutz miklipi adashim as mashlos b'hem. This is the double negative. Rabbi Yehuda says that when you're dealing with the peels or the shells of lentils that are cooked together with the lentil, you do include it. You don't not disinclude it. So the Gemara says adashim in pulin lo. Adashim are lentils. Pulin are beans, a different kind of bean. You don't include them. So the Gemara says, well, we don't include for beans. Vatanya Rabbi Yehuda mer. We have a brayso. Rabbi Yehuda says chutz miklipi pulin v'adashim. No, you also include the shells of the beans that they are. In fact, probably the beans that you were to make, like cholent beans or white beans or lima beans, we do really include the shell, I guess. I'm not quite sure whether it's the outer shell, what's the inner shell. Maybe there's an outer shell we are removing.
Like a lot of the beans come in pods.
Is that what it means?
Like when you get string beans or something. So
right, the peas are right.
So not peas, but other. If you buy beans, so the beans come in a pod. You open the pod, and then you have the beans, and the beans have a skin on them.
Right.
So you're talking the outside pod or the skin. So I'm just saying those are the two options.
So I don't think it's the outside pod. Maybe it is.
Because they do grow like the beans will grow in a pod, and there'll be like 5 or 6 beans.
Right.
You open it up, and then there's
there are peas inside. They're like
peas or beans or
maybe. So I don't know. But anyway, so the Gemara says you do count them, you don't. So do you not consider it? So the Gemara says lo kasha b'charati ha batiki. It depends if the beans are new or the beans are old. If the beans are new, then apparently you did leave the peel on, you did leave the shell on. If the beans were old, you took the shell off. Now you say, well, what's the big difference? So the Gemara says, my time Allah, why'd they take them off when they were old? Amravo, b'mnei she'irin kizvuvim b'kara. That when the beans got old, the shell became dark. So when you cooked the shell and it became dark, it looked like there were flies in the dish. Little flies, it would be flies, bugs, caterpillars, whatever it was, vermin, okay? Because they were different colors. So therefore they were careful to shell the beans before they actually ate them or before they served them at least. I don't know. Okay. Whatever it is, the real issue is it edible or not edible? Clearly adashim lentils, we're eating the peel with it, right? That's what the actual adashim I believe are. And I guess some of the others we don't. Okay, that's hadron al klal gadol. Okay, now let's go back to the beginning of the parak. Okay, so this is back on samach zayin and bet. Okay. Now, before we get started in the parak, let's just note here, the name of the parak is called Klal Gadol, right? Okay? And just to compare this to the piece we did last week, and the Mishnah that we had done last week said, V'od Klal Acher, on page Ayin Hamad Ben, I pointed that out, right? So you have a big klal, you have a great klal, and then later in the parak we have another klal. Okay, so just to focus in onto the different terminology that's there. And the Gemara will talk about that right away. Now let's talk about what the topic is really all about. There's when a person does an Aveira, there's two ways that they do it. There are actually three ways. One is onus. Onus means that you did not have any, you're not responsible whatsoever. You were coerced into it. Right? And the question will come up back in the Gemara, what if you never knew there was a prohibition? Is that coercion? In other words, or is it less? Because coercion means you had no volition. That's one level. Second level is shogeg. What's shogeg mean? Accidental. What's accidental? What makes it accidental?
You weren't paying attention.
You weren't paying attention, or you knew it was, but you forgot it, right? You weren't paying attention to what the law was. Either, like, if you're driving on the highway, you forgot what a sign meant, or you didn't pay attention to the sign. You didn't know that the sign said the speedometer, the speed went down. Or you didn't understand what it meant. I remember we once had a kid who kept asking us, why were all the highways named 65? Right? Why were the highway 65? Actually, it was 55 at that point.
That's a good question.
Right? So that's by the way, that's a kid who was never learned. Who never learned this, right? If you learned it, but you didn't understand what it meant, so you should be expected to know it, because to get a license, you would have had to take a road test or a driving test to pass the written test.
Does it tie in, by the way? I mean, we'll get to it, but the concept of somebody used to be like kidnapped by the Tsar.
Right. It does. It's going to tie in very. Moshe, it's going to come in very directly. It's called Tinok Shenishba. Tinok Shenishba is a child who was kidnapped and who was raised and had no concept whatsoever of Judaism. Now, it does not only have to be kidnapped. That was the only possibility they could conceptualize of someone who did not know Judaism. Right. Today, there's many examples, right, in outlying areas of Jews who are, born Jews, know they're Jews, or maybe not, and never learned what the laws really are. So they have no concept what Shabbos is, or no concept what any of the laws really are. And they just live their lives as practicing or not practicing what they're doing. The third level is going to be the level of Mazid. Right? Mazid is what you're supposed to do. You do it. You know it's wrong, and so forth and so on. Now, the worst scenario with Mazid, of course, is Chayav Misa. You need a Beis Din for that. You need a Sanhedrin. You need witnesses. You need to be warned. Right? You need to have Hasra, and the Hasra has to be done by the witnesses of what the Aveira is and what its consequence is. So if you didn't, even if you knew what the Aveira was, but you didn't know what the punishment was, that's not considered Asra. So that would not be considered Mazid, or be Mazid, that would not be punishable.
Yeah, I just came across, by the way, a concept the other day, which was also dealt with something they talked about, Lahachis, right? Somewhere, I forget.
Right.
Someone came and said, that's worse than Mazid, because the Mazid was like, it was Perush somewhere, said, Mazid, maybe you're just giving into a base desire. You're not looking to.
You're doing it for your own benefit.
For your own benefit. You're not doing it to anger Hashem. You're not doing it to.
So I guess the highest, you wanted the higher level than Mazid, or the lower level.
That's what I said,
would you be what's called a mumar? A mumar is a person who intentionally rebels, and then again, once again, in that you have two subcategories. You have a mumar l'teyavon and mumar l'hachas. Mumar l'teyavon means I know what I want to do. I'm always going to do it because I just happen to like eating, chazer. Okay, so that's the person does it not because they really want to stick it to God, so to speak. Then you have the mumar l'hachas, right, to anger God, that says I'm doing it because it's wrong. Right, the famous Treifa banquet that the first graduating class of the Hebrew college, which is a whole. They argued. I mean, it was a lot of post Monday morning quarterbacking about whether that was intentional or wasn't intentional. Did they move?
Sure was intentional.
Well, it probably was. Okay. But that, by the way, which of course led, I don't know if people know what I'm talking about, the first graduating class of Smicha from the Reform Institute, Hebrew College, and they celebrated their confirmation with a banquet that had shellfish, chaza. They really showed it, and it became called the Treifa banquet. Okay, and that's how it was later called. And in fact, this historically gave rise to the conservative movement.
Oh, really?
Yes, because people thought this was too much. They walked out. They were really offended, and they saw where this was going. And so, as a result, they became conservative, right? Conservative Judaism to conserve it away from the Reform. Anyways, So we have those different levels. Now, if let's go back to the shogeg, because that's really going to be the discussion here in this Gemara. So, in general, you're liable for every malacha everything that you do. You should be chayav for one korban chatas. Okay, so if let's think of an example, building a house. So if I forgot that I can't build a house, and I built the house on Shabbos, and then I realized afterwards, in order to wipe out that transgression, I have to bring a korban chatas. One. Now, if I forgot that I can't build a house, and I forgot that I can't tan hides, so I built the house and I tanned my hides on Shabbos, and I forgot both, and then I realized afterwards I would have to bring how many korban chatases? 2, 1 for each. Okay. What happens if I forgot it was Shabbos? In other words, I forgot it was Shabbos. I knew that I can't build a house on Shabbos. I knew I can't tan hides on Shabbos. But I forgot today was Shabbos. Right? So there I'm only doing one transgression. I get one chatas for the entire Shabbos. As long as I didn't remember in the middle.
Right.
So let me give you the example. Let's say I forgot about building a house. I built the house. Someone told me about it and I realized. And then later in the same day, I'm so absent-minded, I forgot and built more of the house or built another house. So that's 2 korban chatases. Right? Okay.
If a person does an Avera, b'mezid,
Yes.
but there's no Eidim and Hasra,
So
is he treated as in the same category as someone who does it b'shogeg, or is he Potter totally?
nice part that we don't punish him. We can't
Can't punish him at all.
We can't punish him.
And
right?
there's no korban.
There's no carbon. Actually, there is no carbon from mazid. The reason there's no carbon from mazid, it doesn't really have a process of expiation, right? So it's almost like saying that there's a murder case, but there was insufficient evidence to convict the individual.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean the murder didn't take place.
Right.
It doesn't mean that the person isn't really. I mean, we can convict, right?
But if the person, to go back to what you said, if the person did it b'mezid, let's say, right? It's not chayav misa, it's some other, right? And then he really wants to make tshuva, okay? I mean, he realizes that
correct,
he should
okay.
have done, but he doesn't have to bring a korban, you're saying.
So.
Bring a korban shalom.
Correct. So you don't bring a korban, but we know we believe HaKadosh Baruch Hu listens to tshuva. And now some serious averos, some averos are forgiven right away. Some averos are forgiven by our passing, by our dying. That's the final expiation that we get from God. So, but there is a process of tshuva. That's actually part of what it is. But it's a hard concept to say because from a strictly legal point of view, right? It looks like there's a lot of people walking around who are guilty, who have gotten away scot-free. But that's not how we look at it religiously. Right. Religiously, we don't look at this as a hanging court. We look at this as a process that is given to us. I'm trying to remember. We had this when we did. What did we have this somewhere? Perhaps not. I don't think so. When there's a shogeg, right? So we have witnesses, and witnesses cancel out witnesses, right? There's Eidei Zimum and Eidei Achasha. So the Ramban and other Rishonim to point out that HaKadosh Baruch Hu really has a whole system set up in place. That, for example, if a person gets off free, there's other ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks after him, right? And if a person testifies falsely and he gets away with it, there's a whole system out there that we don't understand. That's part of what our belief system is. Now, so a chatas what happens if I build a house? Let's go back to shogeg. I forgot to build a house. I built a house. I stopped. I then built another house. And then I built another house. And then I realized that I can't build a house. Right? So that's only one korban chatas. Because that's one helen. That's one forgetfulness. So in other words, what it really looks like, this is the other part. It looks like the more that you know, the worse off you are.
Absolutely.
Right? If I didn't know that there's Shabbos, or if I didn't know it was Shabbos, I'm only chayav one. If I knew it was Shabbos, I'm smart to know it's Shabbos, but I forgot that I never learned malachas, I'm still chayav one. If I knew the malachas and I forgot them, I'd be chayav for each one.
This guy built 4 houses on one Shabbos?
It's a good builder.
In your example.
4 huts, 4 sheds.
It's a mock of a package. knocks the last nail.
The four houses.
He did 4 Makabah Patishes. There you go. Okay.
You could be a rock.
I learned. I paid attention.
What's more intriguing is he builds one after the other. He doesn't build them at the same time, right?
So maybe, like you said, he did 4.
But there are various malachas that you can think that are much shorter in intensity. Light a fire, right? Okay, and so forth. Okay, so this is called different. There's yudiyah, which means to know about it, and then there's halama, which means you are not aware of it. So you need to have yudiyah and halama in order to be considered a shogeg. And then within the shogeg we have shirgas Shabbos and we have shirgas malacha. You forgot it was Shabbos. You knew and forgot it was Shabbos. You knew and forgot that it was malacha. Okay, so that's pretty much the basis of this. So
So if you didn't know,
that's all.
you didn't know, you're an ignorant, uneducated Jew.
Correct. What is your category? You have one chatas or no chatases? That's going to be the topic of discussion. Okay, but you can see where this concept of an uneducated Jew or an ignorant Jew, or a Jew, by the way, can be a very good Jew, right? But he doesn't really understand the concept of malachos, right? Could be falling into doing various things, and yet maybe accruing less carbon chatases than a Jew who actually knows a lot more. That's the part that's always hard to wrap your head around, because it looks like ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
Right? But you have to view the carbon chatas in a certain way as expiation. Don't view it as a punishment.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? View it as an opportunity.
An opportunity.
Right, there you go.
You can't get somebody for not knowing. Like, I mean, to a certain extent, yes, to a certain extent, no. Yes, I don't know.
Well, to a certain extent, our society doesn't believe in that.
Like,
You're
right.
You can't plead, I didn't know I can't steal. No one ever told me I couldn't steal. No one ever told me I couldn't murder. How would I know I can't murder?
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, there's a concept of natural law, basic things that we expect people to do. With ritual law, there is no natural basis. So, then of course the question becomes: so what would So if you don't know malacha, so what do you know about Shabbos?
Yeah. No, but we just.
What does it mean to know their Shabbos?
But we just spent pages and pages about what does constitute a malacha, right?
Correct.
2 stitches. So it's not so obvious. Let's say what does, and sometimes let's say all those gemaras we went over, right? Like what is a malacha exactly?
Right. Correct. Okay. Right. So you could fall into a situation where you did not know that a malacha is prohibited. Right. That's correct.
We didn't think this was actually a malacha.
Well, I think I gave you the example. For example, if you get a stain on your shirt,
Right.
and you take water and you wipe it out. I mean, that's a very common thing that people do, and that probably is actually a malacha min Torah of koves, of cleaning.
Luckily, nobody's there to warn you.
Shabbos, you can't do it.
Well, luckily you don't know it's prohibited. No, you don't know it's prohibited, so it's going to be shogeg. I'm saying, but this is not. Sometimes we say this is rabbinic. It's not. You're not korban chatas. This is probably something that you would have to bring korban chatas for. So, and it's fairly simple and fairly frequent, and people just they don't connect the dots. So that's the basic thing. Now, so the beginning of this Mishnah, or the beginning of the Gemara, is going to actually talk about Klal Gadol, and it's rapidly going to get into the concept of what you actually forgot, and what you knew, and what is considered Tinok Shenishba. Okay, so it's pretty good. There is one piece in here that's really a very nice piece we'll come to, not tonight, about what happened if you forgot which day is Shabbos altogether. You're stuck in the wilderness. And then I told you there's a piece that gets a little more complicated, you'll see. Klal Gadol Amru. They said a Klal Gadol, which I told you the Gemara is going to discuss why it's called Klal Gadol b'Shabbos. Kol ha-shochech ikar Shabbos, v'yosem malachos harbe, b'Shabbosos harbe, eino chayev el chatas achas. Okay, the first example. You forgot you forgot that there's a Shabbos.
Right.
Now, what does that mean to you, ha-shochech ikar Shabbos? How do you want to translate that?
Forgot the concept of Shabbos. I would
Right, you
say.
forgot the concept of Shabbos. You mean, did you know it before?
Obviously.
Shocheh.
Okay, so obviously it's not going to be as obvious in the Gemara, but the simple meaning of the line hashochech means you learned there was Shabbos, right? And you went to Cheder or something, and you went to a shul and you heard a sermon about Shabbos, and then you walked out, and years later you never kept Shabbos, and then you forgot that there's even a Shabbos. So this is even a precursor, not even knowing that there is which day is Shabbos. You don't even know there's Shabbos. Okay. and you do many malachas on various Shabbases. Also, malachas harbe v'shabbos harbe eno chayav al chatas achas. You only chayav one korban chatas. So this is the ultimate. I'm going to say almost the ultimate ignorant Jew. Okay, you don't know that there's Shabbos. Now, what does it mean you don't know there's Shabbos? You don't know. What don't you know?
You
Lost
lost
track of days.
you lost track of days.
Well, you actually know it's Saturday. You lost track of the concept that there's a day called Shabbos.
Oh, you lost track of days, you lost track of the Shabbos.
Sorry?
You don't understand anything
You
about
understand the malachas, correct?
I definitely know some people who, they undoubtedly have heard that there's a Sabbath, but the concept of them that you couldn't do X.
Right. Correct.
So to them, like Sabbath means, they're not too sure what it means,
Right.
right? So, yeah, no.
But you see
Go to shul.
the unclarity that can come up. What this means, a person forgot that there's no Shabbos min Torah. That's what Rashi says. Kasavor ain't Shabbos b'Torah.
So he knew it was Shabbos. He knew it was Saturday, but he didn't
He knew
connect that it was
Saturday,
Shabbos.
but
Right.
The concept
Yeah,
of
I think so.
Shabbos,
Okay.
what's going on there?
Okay. I used to have a neighbor. I would say to him, "Good Shabbos." He would say, "Good morning." Israeli. Okay.
Well, I have Israelis.
Shabbat Shalom. We say, "Good morning."
I have known from Israelis.
I have a,
And then they come, they're shoveling whatever they're doing. They wish me a good Shabbos, but it doesn't have the religious connotation.
correct. But I think that person may know it's Shabbos. Correct.
He's doing his whatever. He's shoveling the snow.
So-
Sometimes you hear
Cutting the
say,
grass.
Sunday is like the Christian Sabbath. Well, I'm not sure. Like if that's supposed to mean it's like a Christian Shabbos, I don't think the concept is the same concept.
Mr. Richter.
No, so in Israel, everybody, the most secular Jew, is Shabbat
Shabbat
Shalom.
Shalom, yeah.
Correct.
It just doesn't-
Correct.
Absolutely.
So he never did.
So we can consider that person would know that there's Shabbos is Shabbos, but he doesn't know anything about malachas of Shabbos.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think? I'm not sure that it would apply to every single secular Jew.
No, for sure.
Many secular Jews have seen Jews who carry out Shabbos and know what Shabbos is, and if they don't know everything on Shabbos, they have a sense that Jews don't drive, or Haredi Jews don't drive,
Right.
so they have this. They may not think it applies to them,
That's it. Is
right? Okay? But this seems to mean there's a very minimal level of not knowing Shabbos, what Shabbos is. That's where the discussion about Tinuk Shnishba is going to come up. So at any rate, this kind of person is going to be chayav for all the Shabboses in the world that he lives through, all the Shabbos of his life, he will be chayav one korban chatas,
Right.
which is like it's different. You know, the Shabbos is different than every other avera or every other mitzvah. For example, when you talk about eating kosher and eating treif, there's one avera to eat treif, right? With Shabbos, there's 49 malachas. Each one can be chayav a korban chatas. Shabbos comes on a regular routine every 7 days, so it's a little more complex. Okay, so this individual, our ignorant Jew, does not know that there's Shabbos. The Torah gave a Shabbos, may think it's a good kind of thing that the Jewish people did, but not that it was ever a Torah prohibition. So, he does many malachas on many Shabbosim eno chayav al chatas achas. The next person, Yodeh Ikar Shabbos. Person knows that there is a Shabbos. V'asa malachas harbe v'shabbos harbe. And he doesn't know anything about particular malachos. He knows that there's Shabbos, and he breaks Shabbos. So he's chayav al kol Shabbos for Shabbos. This individual is chayav for one chatas for every Shabbos, even though he didn't have a. Remember, I said there's helem and there's yediyah. Didn't have a knowledge about what Shabbos was in the interim. But nonetheless, he knows that Shabbos, and he knows that Shabbos comes every 7 days, so he's chayav one for every single Shabbos. Okay, he's not chayav 49 malachas for every Shabbos. He's chayav one for every Shabbos. That's the second one. Yodeika Shabbos v'asa malachas harbe b'shabbos harbe chayav al kol Shabbos for Shabbos. Okay. Third level is hayodeya shu Shabbos. Third level is probably what most people fall under. They know that today's Shabbos. They have a sense that Shabbos was given by God at Sinai. V'yasa malachos harbe v'shabbos harbe, did many malachos on various different Shabbosim, and chayav al kol av malacha. This individual would be chayav for each malacha that he has done on each Shabbos. Right, av malacha. So what does the word av malacha mean?
Technically only for the Avi, not the
Correct.
liable for the Toledo.
So, correct. So it means this. Well, almost. It means that you're chayav for 40, the maximum of 49 different chatases. There's 49 maximum possibilities what you can transgress. So when it says av malacha, it means av malacha, to the exclusion if I did an av malacha and I did also a tolda. Right? There are extensions that we had seen and learned in the 7th parak. So, so therefore I maxed out at 49. Sorry, 30. I keep saying that 39. Maxed out 39. Thank you. However, I'm not necessarily going to have 39 if I did very little. Right? Well, let's say I did nothing. I sat at home. I slept all day. So, but I maxed out at 39 malachas. To underscore this last piece, the Mishnah says, if a person does various malachas, but they're all categorized on the one type of malacha, you only have one. Just to give us a quick example that we had when we learned this. One of the first malachas we learned was about planting. So we learned about Zoreya and Zomer and Notea and Mavrich and Markiv, planting seeds, pruning trees, planting trees. It's all the same malacha. So if I did all of the above, I'm only chayav one on each Shabbos. So far, so good. Okay. So and if I didn't do an av malacha and I did various toldos, I'm also chayav for that type of malacha. Okay.
A korban chatas is a bird.
It could be a bird. It could be, I believe, it could also be mincha. It could not be mincha.
Flour?
Korban mincha. Yeah.
So it's a relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, if you rack up a whole bunch, yes. I believe so. Yeah.
For a bird is for a rich person, I guess.
When he's saying any person, he's saying maybe you can bring a mincha.
Right. By the way, in terms of a bird is not as expensive as you think.
Oh, yeah.
When you go into Sobeys, you buy a barbecue chicken for $13, right? So 10 chatas is $130. Maybe you get a real deal. I'm sure they sell them for wholesale birds.
What kind of birds?
They were pigeons probably in those days.
Could have been
Right, they weren't chickens. Chickens don't exist.
No, I know.
Doves,
Was it dove or
doves,
something?
yeah, small birds, very small birds.
You know,
Right. I told you the vision of the Temple Institute is you're not going to be walking around in an open air market like you see, like in Europe. It's going to be like going to Sobeys. You go to the counter, you place your order, they go to the back, the shechet takes care of it, and they send it off to the Beis HaMikdash. It's going to be very, very organized, automated, refrigerated. Be a new system. Okay.
Subcontracted to Amazon.
Amazon will get one of those things. They'll just drop the bird. What do they call it? What do they call those things? Amazon. They're going to use
Drones.
Yeah, they're going to drone and drop it right into the
Yeah.
Mizbeah. Only to the Mizbeah.
No, you do it online. You're going to do it online. You don't have to go. Okay. All right. So let's come to our Gemara. So remember, the first part of this Gemara is really going to talk about the klal, the word klal. So I do have a sheet for you. Let me just give this out to you. It is because it lists the different mishnayos where the term comes up. Let's do with it. There it is. Okay. I'm sorry for the small print, but the truth is, I don't want you to really. We're not going to learn the mishnayos as much as to see the different mishnayos, the term that's used back and forth. Okay. It's a front and back. So we're going to talk about the following mishnayos. Okay? This, by the way, is Sefaria. For those who maybe want to use Sefaria, this is what it looks like. It's good. It's a good copy.
Sefaria is all translated Sfarim, right?
It's all Sfarim. It's open source, and some of them are translated. Right. It's so
plus Perushim.
Plus Perushim on them, correct?
Yeah. Okay. What's your name?
Yeah. Sefaria.org.
Buckman's wife, I think, works there.
Yes, she does. Sefaria, SEFARIA.org. Sefaria. They're constantly adding things. It's amazing. It's all open source, and you can swipe it and use it. It's free.
Best you can search on it as well.
Correct. Okay. At any rate, here, let's look at page 1. Just want to show you the outline here. Forget the topics. Okay. Shabbos chapter 7. That's what we did. So the first Mishnah says Klal Gadol, right? See the top of page 1? And then we did middle number, Mishnah number 2 was what we did months ago, right? And the one we did last week is V'yod Klal Echad. So you have a Mishnah that says Klal Gadol, then you have a Mishnah that says later on another Klal. In Masechet Shvius, Masechet Shemitah, in the first chapter, Klal Gadol Amru B'Shvius, and then turn the page over. The Mishnah that follows it says V'yod Klal Echad Amru. Okay, you have a big Klal and a smaller Klal. Okay, in Masechet Maasros, you have Klal. You don't have Klal Gadol. Okay, you have Klal, and then you have the Mishnah afterwards. Then you have Masechet Peah, which once again you don't have Klal Gadol. You do not. By the way, that's not chapter 1, it should be chapter 5. Peah chapter 5. It's my mistake.
It's not a Klal Gadol, but it's a Klal.
Right, it's a Klal. But you see there's Klal Gadols and there's regular Klals. Klals come up all around. But we're going to talk about Klal Gadols. So Gemara said, my time, let's go back to our Gemara. My time, Tana Klal Gadol. Why does our Mishnah begin with the words Klal Gadol? Is it because we have this big Klal, and then later on we're going to give a smaller Klal? Right? And the smaller Klal makes sense. Big Klal is about what is Shabbat, what is how many chatas did you do? Smaller Klal is
Ron Samach Zayin.
I'm sorry?
Ron Samach Zayin.
Amid Bet. With Samach Chesed and Aleph. Okay. Mishnah Samach Zayin Amid Bet, right?
Right.
Okay, now we're doing the Gemara on top of Samach Chet with Aleph. So let's get back in Shabbos. Klal Gadol is basically a rule that's large because it deals with every Jew. What's your identity? It's an identity thing. Then we have Old Klal about what are the rules about bringing stuff out. Small food, small animal, big animal, so forth. So, my time at Tana Klal Gadol, so it says Tana Klal Gadol. Because we have a smaller Klal later in the parak, we begin the parak by saying Klal Gadol. V'gabe Shvius, Nami Mishum the Kabbai Lemisnei Od Klal Echad, Tana Klal Gadol. The same thing in Masechet Shemitah. This is once again the bottom of page 1. The Klal Gadol, which opens on Masechet Shvius, is the first Mishnah of Shemitah. Talks about what is defined and subject to Shemitah. That's the first Mishnah. And then there's another Klal which deals with something that's not human food, that's not animal food, that may also be related to it. So there's a greater Klal because it applies to edibles, and then the less Klal deals with, so to speak, not really fully edibles. So the same thing in Masechet Shemitah. So Mishvius Nami Mishum L'Kabay L'Misnei Od Klal Acher Tana Klal Gadol. Same thing in Masechet Shvius. You have Klal Gadol and another Klal. So the Gemara says, wait. Thank you very much. Oh, you saved me. So so the Gemara says, if that's the case, V'hagabe Meiser. In the case of Masechet Maasros, the Katani Klal Acher, V'lo Tani Klal Gadol. So how come in Masechet Maasros we have a Klal? We don't have Klal Gadol because we should have one that follows the other. So why don't we have a Klal Gadol? So you can't simply say that you have one Klal followed by another Klal. You see that in Masechet Maasros you have in the first Mishnah itself. The very first Mishnah, it says Klal, Amru, and then if you look halfway through the line, V'yod Klal, right? So if you were following this template, right? O Klal Acher. So if you're following the template of a greater Klal and a smaller Klal, like in Shabbos and Shvius, Maasros should have Klal Gadol and V'yod Klal. So therefore, you see that the concept of Klal Gadol is not in comparison to a smaller Klal, which appears right in the very same parak. Okay, so therefore, the premise or the theory that Klal Gadol was used to differentiate that from a following Mishnah, which was a Klal not so Gadol, won't stand up. Good. So then we come to another answer, another suggestion. Amar Rav Yossi Rav Avin. I'll tell you why it's called some things are called Klal Gadol. Shabbos u'Shvius, the Isbu Avos v'Toldos, so Tana Gadol. When Shabbos, we talk about Avos and Toldos a whole lot about Shabbos. So both of them are actually in Torah. In Shemitah, we use the term for Toldos for rabbinic extensions for Shemitah. Okay, but it's still called Toldo. So because you have related things, so therefore the extensions are going to become klal, right? The klal gadol is going to be really talking about the klal that deals with the avos. Now, it's not really such a good answer, because if that were the case, the first Mishnah should deal with the avos, and the next Mishnah should deal with the toldos.
Isn't that what it is?
Not for Shabbos, it isn't. Not really for Shabbos. Not really for Shabbos. But what it's really saying is that don't compare it to a lesser type of klal. The very fact that you call something a klal, and you have different categories subsumed under it, is going to make you call it a klal gadol. It's a great klal, because you have to learn from that klal about avos, and about extensions from it called toldos. So that can apply for Shabbos, and that can apply for Shvius. So it's not really the fact that I have one Mishnah follows with a second Mishnah. The very first Mishnah itself, somehow is going to deal with avos and toldos. To some extent, what would it mean for Shabbos is the first Mishnah, which we just did, and the second Mishnah, which we had started Shabbos with, which is the 39 malachos, right? So that's klal gadol would really be applying to both of them. And the same thing with Shemitah, you'd have to say that Shemitah, klal gadol is going to apply to the avos, and as well to the toldos. So in other words, the rule is, I'm not sure if you like it or not, but if you're dealing with something that is complex, that you have different gradations, when you're trying to give a klal related to that, you call it klal gadol. It's a greater klal in comparison to maybe some other types of laws of the Torah that are fairly simple, black and white. Do this or don't do that. It's never as simple as that, right? So that's the Gemara says. So I'm Rabbi Yossi. This is 2, 4, 6, 8, the 8th line. I'm Rabbi Yossi bar Avin. Shabbos Shvius the Ispehu Avos v'Toldos Tana Gadol. Okay, so Meiser the Lesba Avos v'Toldos Lo Tana Klal Gadol. Okay, so we don't have Klal Gadol. So therefore, we understand according to this why Klal Gadol would appear for Shabbos. And it's dealing with Mishnayos that deal with avos and toldos. Shemitah will have also avos and toldos. When we come to Maisros, there's no real parallel but avos and toldos. So that would be good. It may not be the best answer, but it looks like it's viable. There's one problem. Bar Kapara has a nusach of the Mishnah in Masechet Avos, not called Klal, but Klal Gadol. Okay, we're about to read it in the Gemara. That's why I said, unless you have this in front of you, it's hard to go through this Gemara. Well, the Bar Kapara, the Tani Klal Gadol b'Maiser, my avos and my toldos hika. There is no avos and toldos, so we don't have that. That's not our version. But Bar Kapara, who learned the Mishnayos, had a version, not Klal Echad, Klal. What's the word? What's our version? Klal Amru. Then he had Klal Gadol Amru. Okay, so if that's the case, what you're trying to tell me about avos and malachos, you have a complex kind of series of laws that deal with higher levels and lower levels. Doesn't apply to maisros. So why would it say klal gadol? So therefore, maisros breaks, according to Bar Kapara, breaks the answer.
Maybe Bar Kapara had an incomplete, incorrect girsa.
Or maybe we'll have to find another answer for Bar Kapara. So the Gemara assumes that Bar Kapara had if not the authoritative final version, had a version of the Mishnayos that was considered acceptable. All right. So in other words, but it tells you that klal gadol, the word gadol, can be applied to other things besides those of us and told us, at least according to Bar Kapara. So
the Gemara is assuming a degree of consistency in terminology.
Correct.
Which, I mean, I can understand if you're applying this to the Torah, to a pasuk.
Right.
But to apply that to a
This is Rabbi Yehuda's work. This
right.
is Rabbi Yehuda's
so
work.
this is part of a...
Which is undoubtedly Baruch HaChodesh and everything else. But, you know, sometimes I find it unrealistic to expect such a high degree of consistency in terminology.
So, you're right. So, first of all, the Gemara is assuming that there is a degree of consistency. This is actually part of a much larger discussion, or larger, I guess, concept. Did Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi take what he had and simply edited them, or organize them, or did he actually do a lot of fundamental editing and reworking and reformulation?
And making the terminology consistent.
And making terminology consistent, correct, okay? We do have certain rules that we do try to apply, like, stam v'achar kach machlokas v'achar kach stam. We have rules about stam mishnah, so there is some kind of belief he does do some kind of work. The question is, linguistically, is he straighten things out? We do have, for example, on the other hand, we have terms like this mishnah kalila. I forgot what the Gemara talks about. The lashon of the mishnah is a very terse lashon. It's hard to read, it's hard to understand it, which means it assumes that there was some kind of mishnayos that were organized one form, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi left them that way. If you look at Masechet Eidios is organized basically, it's not organized by topics, it's really organized by numbers. So there seems to have been some way to organize Mishnayos by numbers, that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi simply left that in Masechet Eidios. He didn't reformulate it by put all the Mishnayos and Eidios in different places. So I agree. Now, what I can tell you is that in many cases, the first Mishnah, the first sugya of a Gemara, and let's say it like this, in virtually all Masechtos, the first sugya of a Gemara, of the beginning, of Daf Bet, is a linguistic sugya. Yeah. And in many cases, not consistently, but in many cases, the first sugya of a Perek has the same style. Now, why does it have the same style is a very large discussion. Is it like, well, let's put aside all the linguistic stuff before we get to the hard stuff?
We have to define your terms before we move on.
But it looks like it's very picky in defining the terms. That's really the issue. The issue is not defining the terms; it's defining klal gadol. It's defining something that is it's a very picky term. Doesn't mean it means the same thing all the way through, right? Or not. The premise, Mr. Bendel's point is very, very correct, that this looks like it goes out of its way to assume that if it doesn't say klal gadol, something's really intrinsically wrong with the Mishnah. Or there's got to be a reason for klal gadol. Right now, on the other hand, if the Mishnayos were shorthand notes, so this was a great klal, this was a great klal, and a different day the next thing was a great klal, it wasn't a great klal. Doesn't seem like the biggest thing to make a big deal about. It seems like
we would attribute something like that nowadays to literary variation.
Correct.
So you don't want to use exactly the same formulation. You want to change the language a little bit.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is that this is exactly what you see in first sugyas. Yeah. If you may remember what the first sugya was in the first parak, had to deal with let's see what it had to deal with. Avos and Toldos. It also had to deal with Avos and Toldos, right? And compared Avos and Toldos in different Masechtas. And first it also dealt with going out and coming in. So it does come up in a number of places.
And there's a meaning in everything.
Yeah, but this is
even in the style. Even the style.
Okay. The question is, you can find meaning if you're looking for it. The question is whether the meaning was intended.
Right. The question is which is the hill you want to fight on. Right, this looks like it's not the hill that you really want to die on. This looks like it's a minor linguistic, stylistic. These are all stylistic things. What I'm trying to say is that for whatever the reason is, there have been theories that have suggested that the first sugya has in many cases later substrata that were put in by the Sivoroim and the post-Talmudic, who were more concerned about cleaning up the linguistics of the Mishnayos or the Talmud. And these were they kind of put those in. That's a theory. There's really not so much proof. If you look at many of these Masechtas or many of these sugyas, you find that there's a predominance of anonymous material. There are certain statements here of Amoraim, like we just did Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Avin. The question of what was the strata that was built in, it's not clear. On the other hand, it is consistent with the first sugyos. So,
when did they put this together? Who put them exactly together?
So all I'm saying is that you're right. Yeah. But the question is a larger question. It deals with the first sugya in pretty much every Masechta, and as well as the first sugya in a lot of prakim. Linguistic, right? Right. The difficult thing about it is usually when you start teaching kids in Masechta, you usually start with the first sugya. Right, so inevitably they get this long discussion about something that's almost extraneous about really halachic issues. Right. That's the way it is. Okay, so at any rate, we had one suggestion was klal because there was a klal gadol in the parak and it's less klal. Now we come to a different version. There's a klal gadol wherever you have it, avos and toldos. Right. And when there's no toldos, you don't have klal gadol, just a klal. And we just knocked that down according to Bar Kapara. So now the Gemara is going to suggest the third answer. Right? Elalav. My Toldazika, Elalav Hainu Taima. This is the reason. And I'll explain to you what the Gemara is going to say before we read it, because once again, it's not going to be as satisfying perhaps as you would like to be. Klal Gadol, well, here's the basic rule. Gadol implies there's a Gadol, there's got to be something less Gadol. That's pretty much the premise we have until now. Therefore, if you had a first Mishnah was Klal Gadol, means in the same parak there's going to be Klal not so Gadol. Right? If you have a Klal Gadol, it's because it was Gadol, because it's Avos and Toldos, and halacha does not have Avos and Toldos, is less Gadol. So this is now about comparing all the Klal Gadols, one to the other. So if you have a Klal Gadol, it means a Klal that's greater than something else. Not a great Klal, but a Klal that... Okay, a klal that is great. What makes it great? Because something about this law has greater significance and greater importance and greater, I don't know,
maybe harder onish.
Maybe a harder onish. Maybe applies to a large amount of things than something else, which is a different topic. But the second topic. So the first topic is a klal gadol. Because in comparison to topic 2 is less great. But topic 2 is also a klal gadol because it's greater than topic 3. Okay, and so forth and so on. And until you reach the level where you've kind of removed the great, complex, validating topics, then you get onto regular klals. So that's the consistency that runs through it. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Where's it again?
Alav
Hainu Taima. Gadol onshel shel Shabbos yoser mishel shvius. Okay.
I was just a guess.
So it doesn't mean like the actual punishment, but you see the significance of the punishment of Shabbos is greater than shvius. The Shabbos isa bein betalosh bein b'mechubar. Shabbos you can transgress and be punished for things that are attached to the ground and things that are detached. Vilu shvius betalish lesa b'mechubar isar. With shmita, it's got to be things that grow on the ground. There's no such thing about shmita, about something I don't know about. It's unattached, and so therefore Shabbos is a klal gadol because it's greater, has more validity for more things, more categories of things in this world than shvius. But shvius is also a klal gadol. The gadol onsho shel shvius yosim and a meiser. The shvius isa bein b'meichel adam bein b'machal behema. Shvius also is greater because, it only applies to things that grow, but it's things that grow that are edible for people, things that grow that are edible for animals. V'ila meiser, b'machal adam isa b'machal behema lesa. But meiser is you only have to take meiser, you only have not for not taking meiser for human edible food, right? For fodder, you don't have to give meiser. So that's about Shabbos and Shvius. Remember, the meiser has klal gadol according to Bar Kapara. Bar Kapara the tani klal gadol b'meiser. So meiser gadol onsho shel meiser yoter mishel peah. So meiser is greater than peah. Why? Dilu meiser isa b'te'ena v'yerek. Because meiser chayav for te'ena and yerek, right? Not just for wheat. U'b'peah less than b'te'ena v'yerek. Okay. So right. The Tanan that we now, this first time, by the way, in this whole thing they bring a Mishnah. The Tanan klal amru b'peah kol shu ochel. This is called a klal for peah. It's not called klal gadol. So it tells you what you have for to put aside the corn of the field. Kol shu ochel. It has to be something that's edible. V'nishmar. It's got to be something that you'd want to store or storable. For example, vegetables. Vegetables can't be stored, or not nishmar. Now, today we do store vegetables because of refrigeration, but grains are storable, right?
If you're growing vegetables, you didn't have to leave peah.
Correct. V'nishmar v'gidulam in arts has to grow from the land. V'likitaso ka'achas, and you have to harvest the whole thing at once. Not sometimes you have different fruits that were harvested at different times. We'll see in a moment. That includes the te'ena, the fig tree, which the figs ripen at different times. Umachniso lekiyum, and you store it away. Chayav b'peah. Okay. So that all of this is chayav and peah. What does this exclude? So ochel, when it says food, lemutei sviche stis v'kotze. This excludes things that we use basically for colorations. These two items, stis and kotze, we use basically for their colors, for tzeva. So they didn't really collect them as store for food, for human consumption. So therefore, you don't have to do peah. V'nishmar. So nishmar, I'm sorry, it's not vegetables. Vegetables later on. Nishmar is lemutei hefker, means it's ownerless. I don't have to do peah for ownerless food, ownerless produce. V'gidulam in aretz, and it grows in the ground, excludes lemutei kmeina pitris, excludes truffles and mushrooms, which don't grow from the ground. They don't get their nutrients from the ground. They get their nutrients from the air. Ulikitaso ka'achas, and they're collected all at once. They're gathered at once. Lemutei te'ena, and that excludes te'ena. That excludes figs. Figs ripen at different times.
Well, not just fig, presumably other things on trees.
Right. So Rashi says that this applies to most trees.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Most trees do not all ripen at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So only there's a small number of trees that really ripen at one time. Okay. So not clear why it says, doesn't say Elon. So Te'ena is a typology for many trees. Right. So apparently they're like only 8 trees that ripen at the same time. Umachniso lekiyum, and you bring stuff into store. Lemuta yerek, this excludes vegetables. So that's about peah. V'ilu gabi meiser tanan. When it comes to what's the obligation for meiser, what's the Mishnah say? Klal amru. There it says klal. Doesn't say klal gadol. Klal amru b'meiser. Kol shu ochel. It's food. Nishmar. It's watch, which means it's not hefker. Gedulam and aretz. It grows from the ground, which is not mushrooms. Is chayav b'meiser. What's not included? What's not the exclusions in maestros? That doesn't have to be harvested at once, which is like peah, which would exclude trees and teina. So therefore, maestros is chayav for trees. Umachniso lekiyam, and you don't have to preserve it. So you have to give maestro at least midrabanan on Yerakos. Lo tznan is not included. So therefore, I'm not sure if I read it completely correctly. You understood it? Yeah.
No,
so
I'm not sure I did.
I'll go back and read a moment. In other words, Meiser has 2 additional things that are not listed in the types that are chayiv and Meiser. And the types that are chayiv are really meant to be exclusions. So peah you exclude trees, right, and you exclude vegetables. True. Right. With Meiser you don't exclude trees, you don't exclude vegetables. Right. So therefore, Meiser, we normally think of this for wheat and barley and everything, but you really chayav for a whole lot of things for Meiser, and it's peah as well. But there's more that you're obligated for Meiser than you are for peah. Right. Ergo, according to Bar Kapara, that's why his mission of Meiser would say klal gadol, because it's greater, it applies to more things than peah. Okay? Now, we don't have klal gadol for Meiser, so why not? Looks like Bar Kapar is right. So what would you say?
That's a good question. It sounds like it might
So
that's the principle.
So there are 2 possible responses. One response is we say the difference between trees and not trees and vegetables not such a big deal. Right? It's not the same as saying that which is in the ground and that which is attached to the ground, that which is not attached to the ground, that which is edible for animals versus edible for people. Right? So it's almost like it's just subsets of subsets. That's one answer you could say. So therefore we wouldn't say klal gadol. The other answer we say we don't even have to come to this. We'll go back to the second answer, which is why was the klal before? Right, Av and Toldos versus, and then was animals and animals and people. Right, so that we'd stay with that answer. We only came to this third approach to what does klal gadol mean for whom? For Bar Kapara. So maybe we don't even have to follow this idea. Now, it's not going to make a big deal. It's not a halachic discussion, but that's just in terms of why it would be. So either we say the difference between trees and no trees and vegetables and no trees is not a big deal. It's not such a big difference to call it klal gadol. Or else you say we don't even come to this last part because that's only going to bar kapara. Okay? And there they lived happily ever after. So that's so that's really about this whole piece of Gemara. Okay?
All that for just a stylistic variation.
Okay, so I'm telling you, go back and look at the first sugya of whatever you're learning. And you'll
Like
see
you
the
say, there are other places where they say klal gadol, and some places where they don't.
Right,
so
correct.
What was the reason?
right. So now the real question is, if you were thinking about it, this parak should probably be the beginning of the Masechta,
Yeah.
right?
Well, no.
Now,
As far as whether you're liable or not, if you're
no, about in terms of introducing Shabbos,
Yeah.
Shabbos.
Exactly.
This is we're talking about Shabbos. The previous prakim, which we only did the first parak, the previous prakim deal with Hotzah. Right. The second parak is about lighting candles. The third and fourth parak is about cooking.
We gave a reason why it's on.
Well, the reason is because that's the order of things that come up on Shabbos.
Yeah.
First thing that you have to know is it gets to be Shabbos, you can't carry in and out. Second thing is it gets to be Shabbos, you got to light the candles. Third thing, you got to make sure your food is cooked. Then the fourth and fifth parak deals with second and third. Second parak is Likin. Third and fourth parak is about cooking and insulating, and the fourth and fifth parak is about carrying out for animals and carrying out for ornaments and so forth. It goes back to the carrying, and only here,
talking about people don't even know it's Shabbos.
we get to the beginning of Shabbos.
Those could be categorized as pratim. And here we
Yeah.
give the klal gadol, which
Exactly.
comes in Perek Shvi.
Yeah, but if anything, the klal gadol should really be for the next Mishnah, which is really about the avos malachos. So that's why you'd have to say that the two go together. It's like one big, long, happy Mishnah. So if you thought this introduction was not the most important thing to hang your hat on,
No, I know it's.
but at the same time, I think it's really consistent with what comes up in a lot of places. And next week, this is a good place actually to stop, because next week we'll talk about the understanding the different types of people in the Mishnah, and we'll get to talk about what a tinok shnishba really is, which does have a whole lot of implications. That today we're Jews who really are not aware what Torah is and what you have to do. Okay, we'll stop here.
There's a halachic.
Thank you very much for that drink.
There's a halachic definition for tinok shnishba, like a real halachic definition.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure it is. Sure.
It's been expanded, no?
It's right.
Well,
yeah,
we
Like in our day and age.
it's